So for this version of the Aliyah top, we are using our mosaics as a contrast for the ruffle. The ruffle has been prepared, so in the instructions they do have you lining the back piece instead of using bias. Because this is a summer top and we're using linen, it could get, I feel, quite heavy, so we're going to use bias binding to also finish these edges. So these instructions are ever so slightly different to what you'll find in your instruction book in terms of the lining piece. But to gather your ruffles, we have sewn the front and the back ruffle pieces together. So we've got one continuous ruffle now. We've folded it in half and then sewn our gathering stitches here along the edge. So the first stitch should be about 5mm from the edge of the fabric, and the next one should be about 1.5. So we will be sewing the gathers on then in the middle of these stitches, which kind of gives you a more even appearance with the gathers. So at the top here we have a notch which is for the end of the ruffle. So I'm going to pin that on first. Then we have another notch down here and one on the ruffle, so we'll pin those ones together next. And for bits like this, I like to pin perpendicular to the edge so that it doesn't affect gathering the ruffles. Then we have our side seams to match up over here. And then we'll match the center of the ruffle with the center front of the top. So if you're lining your back bodice as per the instructions, you would be sewing on the front and the back ruffles separately, and then doing not quite a burrito method, but you'd be sort of encasing all your seams inside the lining. Here's my next notch and one here. And then right up to the top again. And then we're going to start pulling the gathering threads. So you're just going to pull either the top threads or the bobbin threads. You don't want to pull both, so separate them and then just start pulling. So this was set to the longest stitch in my machine, which is 5. If you do find that it's a wee bit tricky to pull your gathers, you can also lower your tension. You need to just sort of play about. Every machine is obviously going to be slightly different. I've just removed that pin there just to get some of these gathers pushed on down. But it is a good idea to mark your notches with something other than a snip when you're doing this. Even use chalk, or like I've done here, I've just left a pin in. You should be able to still move your gathers over the top of it, but once you have it gathered in, it can get very difficult to see any notches in here. We will be sewing this with the gathers facing up and stitching in between the two lines of gathering stitches. It is easier to see the gathers as you're sewing and readjust them as you need. Make sure you have set your machine back to its regular stitch length after sewing the gathers. As you can see here, I just use the pin to sort of smooth out any gathers, readjust them as I need to make sure that they're even. So we have one half of the ruffle sewn on, and you can see already how cute this is going to be with that lovely contrast coming around the back here. So we'll continue on with this, and then once that's done, stitch it all down in place. And then attach the bias binding following the same tutorial that we've done for the armholes here.